His name is in the dictionary, defined as ingeniously or unnecessarily complicated in design or construction. Artist-engineer Rube Goldberg imagined creative but convoluted machines for simple tasks. Today, videos of successful or hilariously unsuccessful Rube Goldberg machines are used for advertisements, gender reveals, and music videos. Today, I want to introduce you to Rube Goldberg and look at how babies feature either as cogs in his machines or as subjects of them. Rube Goldberg was born July 4, 1883 in San Francisco, the third of 7 children and one of 4 who survived childhood. He earned a degree in engineering in 1904 from the University of California at Berkeley. After moving to New York City in 1907, he took a job at the New York Evening Mail. His work was wildly famous, and by 1915, a bidding war began between the giant newspapers. As a result, he landed a $50,000 salary, which is the equivalent to little under $1.5 million salary today. While his first machines were featured in comics from at least 1912, it was in January of 1929 that he began his most famous comic series, The Inventions of Professor Lucifer Gorgonzola Butts, continued until 1949.
Well, folks, there she is, the Rube Goldberg door opener upper. How does this door opener upper really work? It's very simple. You see, waiter places cat B on pile of dirty dishes A. Now cat B sees mouse C. Of course, this is a stuffed mouse because he must be used for the next waiter. Now cat jumps on mouse C, causing lever D to lift lighted candle E, which ignites fuse F and sets off bomb G, opening door H very gently.
Meanwhile, Rube married in 1917.
Mrs. Goldberg, with Rube spending so many years telling millions of us how to get things done, he must be a perfect handyman around the house.
Well, we've been married 42 years, Mr. Morrow, and he has never invented anything useful as yet.
And had 2 sons. As a man who lived through World War I, the war to end all wars, only to have his sons enlisted in World War II, his political cartoons struck a nerve. One of these political cartoons won him the Pulitzer Prize in 1948. Peace Today featured the stereotypical American nuclear family enjoying their backyard leisure atop a massive atomic bomb teetering on the precipice of world control and the chasm of world destruction.
Rube, just how would you define a Rube Goldberg invention?
Well, I've been called the father of automation. It's one thing after another. I mean, that's really the thing, and it's an illogical bunch of things which are put in a logical sequence.
In the 1960s, a new generation was introduced to Rube Goldberg's style with the board game Mousetrap and various hobby kits. He retired in 1963 and began to focus on sculpture. Rube Goldberg died on December 7, 1970. He was survived by his wife, 2 sons, and 5 grandchildren. His sons, who changed their surnames at the insistence of their father to avoid anti-Semitism during World War II, became well-respected creative professionals themselves. Thomas George became an internationally acclaimed semi-abstract painter, and George W. George became a producer for film, theater, and Broadway. Of course, this is the baby historian, and what I want to look at are the babies featured in Rube Goldberg's work. Our first 2 comics feature a common theme, feeding the baby. This first one is undated, but it's probably from the 1930s, Invention of Professor Lucifer Butts. The professor's brain tosses off his latest anti-floor walking paraphernalia. Pull string A, which discharges pistol B, and bullet C hits switch on electric stove. D, warming pot of milk E. Vapor from milk melts candle F, which drips on handle of pot, causing it to upset and spill milk down trough G into can H. Weight bears down on lever I, pulling string J, which brings nursing nipple K within baby's reach. In the meantime, baby's yelling has awakened 2 pet crows, L and M, and they discover rubber worm N, which they proceed to eat. Unable to masticate it, they pull it back and forth, causing cradle to rock and put baby to sleep. Put cotton in your ears so you will not be bothered if baby wakes again. So before white noise machines, before electric swings or rockers, there was walking the floor with baby in arms. But as we will see in all of Rube's comics, babies are never held in arms. Babies are treated as a stationary object, sentient but immobile, inert yet high maintenance, causing adults or animals to react, creating stimuli for machines to function. In this example, the caregiver and baby are room sharing, but the effort of getting out of bed to tend to a crying baby is far too much. Instead, crows and guns and moving quickly past the issue of having a loaded firearm and an unsupervised electric hot plate on, let's focus on the nursing nipple. They were popular baby gadgets to make feeding infants a hands-off affair. Unfortunately, it was a deadly convenience because it couldn't be properly cleaned. And of course, an idiot like Professor Butts would suggest just ignoring the baby if it wakes again. In the second example, which is from a hobby kit, Professor L.G. Butts invents a simple way to feed your baby automatically. Sliding sword A down sword swallower's mouth B causes string C to open meat grinder lid D. This allows meatball E to run down steps F into catcher's mitt G as seesaw H rises. Helping hand I trips fishpole J, and baby bottle K falls gently into yowling baby's mouth L. If this simple device doesn't stop the baby's crying, try singing a lullaby. So, at least in this example, we're not ignoring the baby. And a note about this hobby kit, notice that it has a choking hazard warning on it. That warning wasn't required until 1994 when it became a federal law, so the kit featured is just under 30 years old. So in this example, the bottle contains milk that has been left out at room temperature. Leaving milk out at room temperature or even at warmer temps can cause bacteria to multiply, and most people know that today. You don't just leave formula out or breast milk out at room temperature. But before routine milk pasteurization, these bacteria overgrowths were the cause for thousands of annual infant deaths or under-twos deaths every year in the early 20th century. Physicians lobbied hard to get laws passed requiring certified milk to be stored in sealed containers instead of open ones and kept at colder temperatures from the cow to the customer. Doctors also advocated for customers to promptly collect milk from their doorsteps and keep it cold until it was home pasteurized and then served as soon as possible, with any extra milk discarded instead of being saved. More in this one, the bottle illustrated would have raised eyebrows with pediatricians. These types of bottles with the narrow top were called coffin bottles, not just due to the shape, but because they, like the nursing nipple, couldn't be properly cleaned. Instead, wide mouth bottles were recommended both for the ease of cleaning and the ease of feeding. An easy way to make toast, March 1st, 1930. Professor Butts, being a poor old bachelor, is forced to dope out this simple way to make his own toast. Wait patiently for snowstorm. As snow A falls on shovel B, it causes string C to turn on electric switch D, which lights sunray lamp E. Heat rays start toasting slice of bread and also cover baby F with coat of tan. Nearsighted mother G, mistaking tan for dirt, throws water over baby. Water splashing on mill wheel H causes it to revolve and rotate forks I, which keep toasted bread turning. Wind from revolving toast blows against sail J, which forces butcher's cleaver K down against string L, thereby cutting string and causing boxing glove M to shoot out and force shoe N to kick toasted bread onto plate. Before trying this method, be sure you are in a country where they have snow. Otherwise, you will wait around until you starve to death.
It's all very simple. And so are you if you think it'll work.
Throughout the 20th century, getting babies tanned was considered healthy. It was believed that sun exposure could prevent rickets, which resulted in bone deformities. However, modern research shows that no amount of sun exposure can make up for a dietary deficiency of vitamin D, and that there is no such thing as a safe tan when it comes to the very serious risk of skin cancer. But before all that was discovered, well-meaning parents in child care facilities would put new babies out on blankets in the sunshine for hours. Apartment dwellers would put babies in direct sunlight or use window cages for more sun exposure. When and where babies could not get sunshine on a regular basis, tanning lamps, like the one used in his schematic, could be used on infants and young children while they took naps. In fact, in the 1930s, some hospitals started using sunburns to identify babies by branding them with high-powered ultraviolet lamps. Automatic babysitting machine from October 18, 1930. Professor Butts forgets to leave a building which is being demolished, and when they dig him out of the debris, he has an idea for keeping the baby happy while you are out at the movies. As you go out, door A pulls cord B, causing tennis racket C to hit ball D, which swings against roly-poly E, causing it to sway to and fro, and pulls string F, which works jumping jack G. Jumping jack's foot kicked trigger of pop gun H and shoots cork I against chest of cymbal playing clown J, who claps his cymbals together and squeezes rubber ball K, which is attached to toy rabbit L, causing it to hop. Zipple pup M, thinking the rabbit is alive, jumps up and down to catch it and jerks cord N, which is attached to hobby horse O, causing it to rock and pull horse reins P, thereby swinging the cradle, which finally puts baby to sleep after an evening of fun. You will not have to bother doing this after the baby is 3. Then he will be inviting his friends in to play poker and drink your gin. And on to his weekly inventions. These were comics that predated the 1930s. The first one, a simple way to keep a visitor from kissing the baby. As visitor leans on rod A to kiss baby, thumb B lights automatic lighter C, flame D burns string E, releasing pendulum F, hand G plays oriental music on Indian ukulele H, whirling dervish I starts whirling winding rope J around himself and pulling crib away from admiring visitor. Preventing strangers from kissing the baby was a serious public health concern in the early 20th century. The U.S. Children's Bureau put out booklets explaining that under no circumstances was anyone to kiss the baby because it could spread disease. There are photos of American and British babies being wheeled about with signs pinned to their clothing or their buggies warning people not to kiss them. But I wonder if this was more political signaling, showing others that their families were well educated about public health, or if strangers suddenly laying a wet one on a baby was a legitimate threat. Which gets us to the next one, a few gadgets to put a little joy into an election campaign. Quote, armored baby carriage to protect infants from being kissed by candidates, unquote. In the United States, the first record of a politician kissing a baby was Andrew Jackson, and in that case, he foisted the duty onto his Secretary of War as described in an 1888 article, quote, The Tours of the Presidents, unquote, in the Cosmopolitan magazine. Not Cosmo. The Cosmopolitan. The trend of politicians kissing babies began to appease the electorate, or their husbands, since women couldn't vote. But by Rube Goldberg's time, voters weren't too pleased to risk their baby's health to help a politician's street cred. It is a very simple matter to keep the flies off the babies, 1913. Fly enters door, attracted by milk coming from bottle A, slides down trough B to platform C, is tickled in ribs by revolving tickler D, laughs until he falls over into one of the buckets on endless chain E, is hoisted over wheel into bottle of hair tonic F, which raises a beard on his chin, goes to platform G where he shaves himself with a rusty razor, looks in mirror G, and discovers he has contracted the barber's itch, scratches himself to death along board G, and falls lifeless into wastebasket H. And yes, he did mess up his G's and H's there. I'm just reading what was written, people. But fly-borne diseases were another public health issue at the time. The U.S. Children's Bureau put out a booklet on infant care in 1914 with repeated warnings about using screens or netting to completely shield infants from flies, and they had a section dedicated to the prevention and destruction of flies.
Well, folks, I suppose there are one or two among you who think that my inventions are a bit ahead of their time. A shade fantastic, perhaps. All right, go on and say it. Downright screwy.
Rube Goldberg's inert but high-maintenance babies reflected infant care ideas of his era. Babies weren't to be handled unless absolutely necessary, and there is an expectation that they will be in a cradle or a pram. Reducing infant mortality became a cause célèbre in the late 19th and early 20th century. It had a hand in promoting the eugenics movement, which is a topic for another day. Public health measures were wide-ranging, including the aforementioned prohibition on kissing babies and the prevention of flies. These efforts to reduce child mortality would have been salient to Rube himself, having lost 3 siblings in childhood and becoming a father. But Rube Goldberg wasn't the only cartoonist creating ridiculously complex machines involving infants or dealing with infant care. Across the pond, W. Heath Robinson was too. But he deserves his own post, of course. If you enjoy my work and would like to become a patron, check out my Patreon page. And if you are on social media, please consider sharing my posts so that more people can check them out. And, of course, thank you for watching.
Folks, I've done it. I've discovered the secret of perpetual motion. Yes, sir. Long, long after you and I have departed from this earthly scene, this machine of mine will be working on and on and on and on, never stopping for Sundays, holidays,